All right, it's time to do our large wire figure in proportion. Here's the materials you'll use. Pliers can be helpful, but not necessary. Scissors, yes for cutting, and 4 large pipe cleaners. You might want to have one extra handy at the end if you want to add on extra loops for hands. Keep your line gesture rubric handy. That's the one we did with drawing our figure, because look, our wire figure looks very much like our drawn line gesture. Okay, and also you will want your step-by-step photo instructions. Those are very helpful to see the step-by-steps in pictures. All right, ready? Let's make this guy. I will be referencing your photo steps. Sometimes it will be with the large version, sometimes it will be with one of the pictures up in the corner. So watch for both of those examples. Step 1, we need one pipe cleaner and we will be folding it in half. Now don't fold it completely, leave the U down here. That becomes our hip. That U spacing becomes the hip. So if you fold it back up, I have an equal top half and bottom half. I'm on to the next step. I need to make a head, and I need to make a head that fits into the top half equally 3 times. This isn't equal 3 times, there's a small amount at the bottom, so I would try to make it a little bit bigger. I'm just using my fingers right now for quick measuring, trying to come up with about the right size. Yeah, that seems good. The problem is my fingers can move. They're fingers. So if you'd like to grab a piece of paper and kind of mark what you think would be the proper size to fit in there 3 times equally, grab a small piece of paper and then make your marks. I'm using this pink paper so that you can see it well, and then I put marks on it for what size I think would be the proper sized head to fit in there equally-ish 3 times. That's a good one. Now I can use this to make a loop that will be my head. So I take my second pipe cleaner, I curve it as a loop, I compare it to that paper and make it the right size. Too small is no good. I can't do anything to adjust that later, so make sure you've used your measurement and double check that is equal to 1/3 of the top half. Once you have the loop and the proper size, we will just be twisting. You're going to twist the excess of the loop around. Now it's pointy, it's a wire. Don't go kind of putting your finger in there. If you have your pliers, you can use those to hold and twist. Otherwise, just be careful and don't poke yourself. You can use your pliers to cut. That's where you look for the hole in the beveled edge. You put your pipe cleaner in and you squeeze and go back and forth. But again, you don't have to have pliers. You could just use scissors and cut. All right, don't throw that excess away. We use that later. So now I have a head, I have a spine, I have a hip, and I have one leg. Let's attach the head. I am going to lay the head over top of the spine, lining it up with the top of the pipe cleaner. See how you can see that through the top? And now I am just wrapping it around. I'm just going around the outside of the head. My goal is to make this very sturdy. Again, you can use your pliers at any point to help you. Now the bottom isn't attached. It's kind of like when I first did my loop. I have kind of those 2 ends that are sticking off. I need to wrap those. Let's check. We have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are on row 3. Here we go. I am going to add some arms. I'm taking a new pipe cleaner. I am bending it in half. Again, I keep that U. That U is what's going to help me to be the wrapping portion. Remember, we want to be symmetrical. So that excess part of the U is what gets wrapped. Make sure you don't leave excess space for the neck. Put it right up against that loop and wrap. The wrapping is enough space for a neck. Now, if you match up your arms and they aren't even, unwrap it, adjust it a little bit by moving over, and wrap it back around. You need even arms. We're symmetrical. Okay, how about some shoulders? We are still on row 3, but we're on the last one of row 3. Now our shoulders should be 2 heads wide. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring the width of my head And one shoulder should equal the width of one head. Take a look at that shoulder. Doesn't it look about the same as the width of my head? Yes, it does. Now I want the other shoulder to match, so I'll just bend my pipe cleaner over, line it up to bend it. That's the beauty of wire, is I can actually bend and overlay one thing on top of another to make sure they match. I also noticed that my hip, right, it should be a little bit less narrow than my shoulders, a little bit wider than my head. So I have to do a little adjusting there. All right, where are we? Row 1, row 2, row 3. I'm on the first one in row 4 to add my extra leg. I have a large pipe cleaner and the half one for my head. I'm going to take the large pipe cleaner, overlay it on the hip, just that little bit, and I'm going to wrap that around. So I'm attaching this one by wrapping it onto the hip. That should be plenty. That's about 3 wraps, and that makes a nice solid attachment. Now you could overlap like you did with the shoulders, or you could just look and bend it so that you have 2 equal hips. Okay, so again, I'm double checking that my hips are a little less narrow than my shoulders, but a little bit wider than my head. Okay, take a look. This leg is longer than the other one, so we're not going to cut it. No, no, no. Let's turn it into a foot. Turn your figure to the side, kind of just make a ovally shape and then a wrap around the excess. Now we don't want to be lopsided. Remember that extra half a piece from the head? Let's attach that by wrapping it on to the bottom of the leg and just match it up with the first foot that you made. I like to just kind of line up my figure when I'm trying to make 2 of the same things. That is, again, the beauty of working 3-dimensionally with wire. Okay, now that we have 2 feet, let's do some leg checking here. Halfway point would be a knee, and then halfway between the knee and the hip would be the thigh. And what I'm checking is the arm and hand should kind of go down to the thigh, and they do, so I'm pretty good. I do not have to add on an extra loop for a hand because the size is proper, but if you actually want a loop for your hand, kind of like you did for your feet, go ahead, grab an extra pipe cleaner and attach it on. Now remember, the goal for this was to keep it in proportion. So now would be the time to grab out your rubric with one of your line gestures that you did properly and compare it. Remember, wire can be wound and unwound. Make sure to take your time, fix things when they're not right, keep it in proportion, and enjoy.